Get it, number of migrants returning home to Europe has soared since Britain voted to quit the EU. Around 130,000 left in the 12 months to September last year, the highest level for a decade. It helped cut annual net migration to Britain from the EU to 90,000, data from the Office for National Statistics revealed yesterday. The total was down from 165,000 in the previous 12 months, a fall of 46%. But in a stark warning to Theresa May about the scale of the border control challenge. Net migration from non-EU countries rose by 40,000 over the same period to 205,000. It's good news that the numbers are coming down, but there are still more people coming from the EU than leaving. Tory MP Nigel Mills. Around half of the non-EU migrants are thought to be students. It means overall annual net migration was 244,000, still 2.5 times the government's official target of a maximum of 100,000. Tory MP Nigel Mills said, "It's good news that the numbers are coming down, but there are still more people coming from the EU than leaving. That's why it is vital that the government gets on with announcing a new immigration policy. We also must not have free movement continuing through the Brexit transition period when we still have these high numbers of people coming here." Yesterday's estimate of 90,000 more EU migrants arriving than leaving was the lowest since 2012 and the first time the net figure has fallen since the year to March 2013. Get around 130,000 migrants left in the 12 months to September last year, the highest level in a decade. Immigration Minister Caroline Noakes said, "We are committed to controlled and sustainable migration, bringing net migration down to the tens of thousands. This means an immigration system that attracts and retains people who come to work and brings significant benefits to the UK but does not offer an open door to those who don't." Net migration remains 29,000 lower than it was a year ago, and once we leave the EU we will be able to put in place an immigration system which works in the best interest of the whole of the UK. At the same time, we have been clear that we want EU citizens already living here to have certainty about the future, and the Citizens' Rights Agreement reached in December provided that, a Downing Street spokesman said. The decrease in net migration is welcome. We remain committed to bringing net migration down to sustainable levels, the tens of thousands, as we've said before. Sunday, February 18, 2018, protesters break onto the red carpet wearing T-shirts reading "Time's Up Theresa. We are developing an immigration system that will continue to attract and retain people who come here to work and bring significant benefits but will not offer an open door to those who don't." Nicola White, head of international migration statistics at the Office for National Statistics, said, "Looking at the underlying numbers we can see that EU net migration has fallen as fewer EU citizens are arriving, especially those coming to look for work in the UK, and the number leaving has risen. It has now returned to the level seen in 2012. The figures also show that non-EU net migration is now larger than EU net migration, mainly due to the large decrease in EU net migration over the last year. However, migration of both non-EU and EU citizens is still adding to the UK population. Brexit could well be a factor in people's decision to move to or from the UK, but people's decision to migrate is complicated and can be influenced by lots of different reasons. Net migration from Romania and Bulgaria fell by around 30,000 over the year and by around 7,000 from 8 other Eastern European countries, including Poland and Hungary. Population expert Professor Guglielmo Mirdi, of Warwick Business School, said the decline was likely to be the result of a range of factors. There have been very low birth rates in Central and Eastern Europe since the 1990s, contrasting with the baby booms of the 1980s that fed the large migration flows over the last decade. He said, since 2004, unemployment in Poland has fallen from 20% to 5%, and their average wage has increased from around a fifth of British wages to around a half. Getty net migration from non-EU countries still rose by 40,000 in the same 12-month. Tory MP Philip Hollowbone said, "The overall figures are still far too high and way above the government's target, which itself is generous. Once we leave the EU, we have got to get a grip on the overall immigration numbers, both from within the EU and from the rest of the world. Al-Mehmet, vice-chairman of the think tank Migration Watch, said the fall in overall net migration is welcome, but it is still running at nearly 250,000 a year.